Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to PuckTime on WagerTalk TV. I am Andrew, and I have Carmine with me, as usual. Just the two of us here to break down a handful of games, give out some great promos, best bets at the end, and we cannot forget, because sometimes I do, but I shouldn't, about the 6 and 60 segment, a great segment every single Friday with Carmine, taking a little look ahead of some great Saturday games in the NHL. So, Carm, as I always say, these smaller slates, they might not be jam-packed Tuesdays, might not be jam-packed Thursdays or Saturdays, but the Wednesdays, the Fridays, the Sundays, hidden gems on these slates. So we can definitely find some ways to make money. We got some decent games on tap. We'll get to those. Full transparency, we dropped the big play last night. Felt like it was a great day on Puck Time. A lot of free plays I gave out went well, but the big play unfortunately goes down 2-1 after the first period, Nashville, Winnipeg. And that's about it. After that, no more goals were really scored, so it was tough to watch after the first period. All I cared about was a good start. I got my good start, and there was nothing else after that. But that's about it, guys. We'll bounce back and look forward to hopefully cashing some Friday tickets. How are you feeling today, Carm?
Andrew, this is why I never message during games, or I turn off my phone so no one messages me during games. Because I remember Buster doing that to me once, and he's like, "What's your 5% play?" And I told him I had the over 5.5. He goes, "Oh, 4-1 into the second period." He goes, "You're gold." And then it finished 4-1, which is one of the worst score lines, I think, when you have an over, just because most teams don't pull the goalie down 3 unless you're Tampa Bay. But with that said, Andrew, you'll get it back. I had Utah last night, an easy winner over Minnesota. So we'll see if that we can continue to keep rolling, and Utah will be part of the 6 and 60 later on. We need a better 6 and 60. We had a fantastic run before a fantastic run with the 6 and 60 before the Four Nations face-off break, and then the one that preceded the Four Nations break was kind of like what the Edmonton Oilers are doing right now, which is their non-compete. 4 straight losses for the Edmonton Oilers after yesterday's loss to Florida. Differing opinions, Andrew. The team's overrated. They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. Are they overrated? Who knows? There's a lot of great teams in the West, and we're going to talk about a couple of them in the second part of today's show, which is the LA Kings and the Dallas Stars. So we'll see, but I'm looking forward to it. Big weekend ahead, and I have a 5% play up this afternoon in soccer. It is a total, and the last 7 days, 7-0 with totals in soccer. It's been a great February overall, and 2025 in soccer. So you can pick that up over at WagerTalk. 7 straight winners. Let's see if we can make it 8 after today and head into the weekend. But right off the bat, Leafs and Rangers. Leafs minus 125 here on the road in New York. New York plus 105. Shesterkin confirmed. No goalie confirmed yet for the Leafs, but it's looking as if it's going to be Stollarts. Total, Andrew, 6 over 15 in this one. How far have the New York Rangers dropped that a team that used to be 5.5s guaranteed are now 6s and 6.5s? Thoughts on this?
Yeah, it says a lot about their defense, says a lot about their goaltending, Carm. I mean, Shesterkin used to take them a long way with kind of where we saw this team going. And all of a sudden now they need a lot more goals to win games. It's been very apparent. So seeing 6.5, same thing for the Maple Leafs, though. Seeing that 6.5 number. Carm, before I kind of go to my pick on the game, I'm going to just mention, because I was bringing this stuff up for the past few weeks. So I figured I'd bring it up again. I talked about some of the odds to make the playoffs, make or miss. You've been very adamant about the Boston Bruins missing. Well, they were minus 130 3 weeks ago. Minus 130 3 weeks ago to make the playoffs. They're currently plus 400, minus 550 to miss now. So hats off to anybody if they played that. Detroit plus 140 to make the miss, minus 170. I'll get to my point here with this. New York Rangers plus 120 to make, minus 140 to miss. Ottawa minus 120 to make, minus 110 to miss. And of course, Detroit, they're plus 140, minus 170 to miss. Why am I bringing this up, Carm? Why am I bringing this up? Well, the New York Rangers have not been in a playoff spot in how long? Months? I can't remember the last time they were in a playoff spot. I can't remember when it was. And I feel like the biggest thing you hear from people when you're walking around a sports book, you're at a sports bar, is people say, this line doesn't make any sense on this game. This price doesn't make any sense. The odds makers don't know what they're doing. The odds makers always know what they're doing. Sure, we can beat them sometimes, but you have to look at these numbers and ask yourself, why are these numbers the certain way that they are? And the fact is, the New York Rangers have been playing mediocre, and I mean mediocre hockey, and they're not in a playoff spot right now. Detroit and Columbus, who played last night, are in a playoff spot right now. But New York has the best and most comfortable odds out of all these teams besides Ottawa. Right now, the books are saying that we're more likely to see New York and Ottawa in the two wildcard spots than we are to see Detroit and Columbus. The books think that both teams currently in a wildcard spot will not make the playoffs at all. You know, I think that it's very possible that both the Rangers and Senators could leapfrog the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets. So where I'm going with this, Carmen, is I think we have value here at MSG on the New York Rangers, a Maple Leafs team that's played very good hockey since the Four Nations break, dealing with the injuries that they've dealt with, dealing with kind of the bad scheduling, dealing with the fact that Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews and William Nylander, three of their best players, were at the Four Nations tournament. I think that New York is the bet on team today. We saw a little bit of money come in overnight, but the numbers kind of fluctuated back and forth. But I like New York here in this one. And I'll tell you what, I did take a shot with clients in fading the Maple Leafs the other night. And I was texting you about it, pissed off because they blew a 3-0 lead against the Maple Leafs. Maybe Toronto's changed. Maybe they own Boston since Boston used to own them. But New York is sitting comfortably at home waiting for this game. This is a big one here, Carm. And I think this game means a bit more to New York than it does to Toronto. So plus 100, I've locked in the Rangers. That will be a client play tonight.
Yeah, I don't blame you on it, Andrew. We keep waiting for the New York Rangers to put it together, and it looked like they did start to put it together. They got some wins under their belts. The Leafs are always going to give them a tough time because this is a team that's playing extremely well, but it's not very often you see the Rangers as a dog at home. And there's some plus 105s up on our screen that I'm seeing. You know, with regards to the total sits here at 6, shaded to the over 15 cents. The Rangers are 11 and 17 at home to the over. So under bettors are making money if you're taking the Rangers at home. The Leafs, we get some conflicting data on them. The Leafs are 16, 9, and 2 to the over on the road, whereas at home that number isn't as good for them. They've got I think they're negative units as far as over unders at home. So we talk about teams that play well on home ice. We always say in order to get out of a streak or in order to get points to try and make the playoffs, which is what the Rangers need to do, you have to revert back to playing defense first. That's what they have to do. They can't get into a shootout with the Toronto Maple Leafs because they're just going to lose the game. If there's goals in this game, and this is how you bet the total. If you like the Rangers, I think you take the under. If you like the Leafs, you take the over. Because I don't see Toronto going in there and winning a 2-1 game. So I do like the Rangers in this spot, but I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the under. I only have to lay a nickel on it, minus 105, and take the under and look for a strong performance from the Rangers and Shesterkin. Am I touching the burner one more time and getting my hand burned, not learning my lesson with the New York Rangers? Likely, it could happen, but I still think there's some fight in this New York Rangers team. But as you said, right at the top, they need to be better defensively because they have not been all season long. with the exception of the first 18 to 20 games of the season where they had a very good winning record and were in the top 4 or 5 in the standings. They've dropped since then. They need these points, especially with Columbus and Detroit playing tomorrow. You figure one of those is going to drop points. The Rangers need to make up points now to get into one of those wild card spots comfortably. So the under for me, Andrew. What do you think?
I like it a lot, Carmen. I think you're right. I mean, it's very correlated with these teams. And we're not saying that Toronto can't win low-scoring games. It's more so that New York needs to win a low-scoring game. And what does New York have that Columbus and Detroit might not have? And I think Johnny Detroit would speak to this. It's goaltending. Shesterkin's the key. Defense is the key to this New York Rangers team. So to your point, whether they're trying to make the playoffs or once they get into the playoffs, it's all about low scoring defensive hockey. You need that clutch goal in the third period. You need that big goal from a top 6 player, but you also need your goaltender to stand on his head. That'll be the difference. And that'll be, if I said to you, Carm, Columbus, Detroit, Ottawa, and New York, how would you rank the goaltending situation for those 4 teams? Because I think the 2 teams outside the playoffs right now, Ottawa and New York, have better goaltending than both Columbus and Detroit.
Yeah, I think so. Allmark is going to round back into form for them. I think Ottawa needs to get healthy in order, they need to get guys like, Shane Pinto back into the lineup, Brady Tkachuk back into the lineup. Get these guys back into the lineup and make that second half run. Try and stay within shooting distance of 7th and 8th because it's going to be up for grabs. This is a race in the Eastern Conference. It's going to go right down to the wire. And I think as fans of the game, it is great. Maybe as fans of the teams that are involved in those races, not so much. The one other thing I wanted to touch on the fact that, I'm leaning Rangers in this spot, Andrew, is the first game out of the break, they go to Buffalo and they get absolutely blasted by the Sabres, allow 5 first period goals. They lose that game 8-2. Good teams or teams you expect to be good bounce back off an embarrassing loss like that one there. Losing 8-2 to the Sabres or any team in the NHL is an embarrassing loss. They go into Pittsburgh their next game 5-3, and I think even that game they did not play well. Halfway through the second period, I think they had 5 shots on goal, but they found a way to win. Good teams find a way to win, and then they put in an absolutely complete effort in New York, beating the Islanders. So 2 on the bounce for them. Maybe that embarrassing loss to the Sabres is what gets this Rangers team going. We've seen it before. A team loses a bad one and then just goes on a run. It almost makes you think about last year's playoffs with Winnipeg. Didn't Winnipeg win that first game by a landslide over Colorado, and then Colorado rolled them 4 straight after that, right? So there's something to be said about teams having some pride in that dressing room and having a leader in that room that says, this isn't us. Let's go and improve it. They've done it for their last couple of games. This is the litmus test for them because this is the best of those 3 teams that they faced, the Islanders, Penguins, the Leafs. The Leafs are the best of those 3 teams. They're going to need a complete effort, especially defensively, to beat the Maple Leafs tonight.
They will, and I'll be watching. I think it's going to be a good one. And like you said, it's all about the bounce back capability, bounce back ability. It's what some of these teams need to be able to do. And like you mentioned earlier on the show, Carm, the Oilers certainly haven't been able to do it. And my quick 2 cents on the whole Oilers situation, if I'm Leon Draisaitl, I'm not happy with my counterpart, Connor McDavid, right now. I'm not happy because guess what? Yeah, good for you. You went ahead and you won the 4 Nations. You were the MVP of that gold medal game, championship game. You scored the game winner. Guess what? Team Germany wasn't there. That wasn't part of your NHL team. Ever since McDavid's gotten back from injury or gotten back from suspension and gotten back from the 4 Nations, he hasn't looked very good. So picking our spots to bounce back on certain teams, we can only do it. But as we always say, and as people at WagerTalk say, you can only catch a falling knife so many times before your hand's a bloody mess. Then you want to stop catching that knife. You got to just bet on good teams and not these teams that aren't performing at a very high level. All right, Carm, I want your thoughts on this LA and Dallas game because the odds are quite interesting here. It's not often you get the LA Kings at a price like this, and I'm seeing plus 115 ballpark range, minus 130 and higher on the home team, the Dallas Stars. Two teams that protect their own end very well, two teams that have good, solid goaltending. I find this to be an intriguing price. Are you biting on the underdog with the Kings, or do you believe the Stars are favored for a reason here?
Yes, much like a pizza that does not have pineapple on it, I am going for a slice of the LA Kings tonight, Andrew. Plus 115 on this one. And I get it. Listen, the Stars, you mentioned people walking around the books and saying this number on Dallas does not look right. This is Dallas is a very good team. Yes, they are a very good team. Another one of those ones where kind of like the Vancouver one where I took them at plus 150 to beat the LA Kings last time out, and they did, winning that game in overtime. Is the Kings, despite losing that game, never gave up in that game, tied it up in the third period. They played extremely well. They could have easily won it in OT as well too and kept that streak going. It wasn't a setback for them. It was a setback in the sense of they did not win the game. They picked up a point, but this team is still playing extremely well. I really like the games that they played against the Vegas Golden Knights when they beat them as well too, 5-2. They beat Utah right after the break, 5-3. This is a team that's playing well. Anytime you can get a team that's playing well and they hit the road, and the Kings in the past have been a very good road team. I think they started the season off on the road pretty much. Um, you're getting plus money on them in a spot. You got the Stars coming home off a 3-game road trip, losing the last one 6-4 in Columbus. So they're probably not happy about that one. But I don't think that's an embarrassing loss for them because Columbus is a playoff-bound team. At least right now they are. But good wins against the Islanders, good wins against New Jersey. They still allowed goals in that one. This is one of those ones where if LA comes in and can grind out a defensive game like they've been doing at home, they can easily get that similar 3-2 type of win here. I do like the under in this game, but I'm going to take the plus money with the LA Kings, and that's going to be my best bet at the end of the show. So I'm just going to give you a little preview of that. Give me the Kings, Andrew, plus 115. Are we mano a mano on this one?
We're not mano on the side. We're mano on the total here. I like some goals in this one here, Carm. I think that you talk about the road trip, coming back off a little bit of road trip here, the frustration levels. And I understand that coming off a game like Dallas is coming off of, giving up 6 goals to the Blue Jackets. Sure, defense will be on their mind, but I'm not sure that's going to be what they can correct. I think it's going to be able to put forward good offense. And I think when you look at the LA Kings, sure, they have been a pretty good road team. To your point, Carm, they started the season on a huge road trip and had a lot of success on that road trip. But a lot of that success was due to their offense. And so funny enough, for a team that's not getting the last change, LA's offense has been equally or even more productive on the road than it has been at home. And I think that if we like LA in any way, I think we like the over because I think we're going to see a hungry Dallas team. People always say you want to look to go against a team fresh off a road trip, right? Blue Jackets, New York Islanders, Devils, Sharks. That was a mini 4-game trip there, mostly a 3-game trip. 3-game trip actually because of 4 nations. So Devils, Islanders, Blue Jackets. But what's the biggest key here is you're going against a team off an unsuccessful road trip, not a successful road trip. So the motivation and the focus should still be there for the Dallas Stars versus if they won a bunch of those games. So I think we're going to see goals from both teams. I think the offensive, tempo will be super high in this one. And I also think these teams have some bad blood a little bit. So I wouldn't be shocked to see some power plays. The power plays could benefit the over. And Carm, I don't mind if it's LA 5-1. That's cool with me. Let's get the over. Let's score some goals, and hopefully we can get there because I think these two teams are going to be frustrated in their own way. And I watched that Vancouver and LA game, and sometimes you watch a game that finishes 3-2 like that one did, and that easily could have been 5-4. So many chances for both teams, and a lot of times if you lose a bet on an over, which I wasn't on that over, but you're watching that one, and for anybody that had the over in that game, they're probably frustrated. And they don't want to go back on a team like LA because they're frustrated. I can't take the over in that one again. And then the next game is where they score their goals. So both teams coming off a loss. I see some added motivation offensively. I'll take the over 5.5 here. Carm, it's funny because, usually I'd look at a team total. I'll pick this team. I'll pick that team. But, with the 5.5s, I become more of a team total guy with the 6s and 6.5s. I find that these 5.5s, I'd rather just take the full game over. Yesterday, a lot of 5.5s went over, including the Pittsburgh and Philadelphia game. 5-4 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Big comeback for them as they end up getting the job done. And the total in that one, I don't know how there was a 5.5 in the Pittsburgh Penguins game. I mean, they usually are good for giving up 3 or 4 each game themselves. And yet we saw a 5.5 in that one. So 5.5s these days in the NHL are hard to go under. So I'll take the over in this one and sit back and hope for some goals in this one here. So hopefully we can get some good chances. And it's a good Western Conference battle tonight, Carmen. I got to tip my hat because the NHL has been giving us some good games here on the smaller slates. Wednesday, we had some good games. And now here Friday, we have some good games with this one. And we got a pretty good game to finish off Puck Time with in the next game we're going to talk about.
And there's no prop segment today, guys. So we're going to get into the third game. The one thing I wanted to mention, Andrew, one of the reasons why, and I know you like the over in the game, I like the under, so we're going sort of mano a mano. I have no problem going once we get into like the final quarter of the season, starting to take a lot of these 5.5s and taking them under. If it involves teams that are in need of points, because you have to figure they're going to play a tighter game. They're going to play a little bit better defensively, or you would hope so. You look at the Dallas Stars, and their splits, home and away, are completely different. On the road, I think through 30 games, 100 goals scored, 86 goals allowed. And then at home, they've only allowed 64 goals through, I think, 28 games, scored 94. A plus 30 goal differential at home, plus 14 on the road for this team. It's another one of those reasons. I think that it's a low-scoring game. That 3-2 keeps sticking in my head. I have to see what the 3-2 exact score is for either team. Once it goes to overtime, you're going to cash. If it's 2-2 and it goes to OT, you cash the bet regardless on one of them. But
It's
it has to be
10
about
to 1, Carm.
10, 11 to 1.
10 to 1, 3-2 LA, see? 10 to 1, and plus 950, 3-2 for Dallas.
I threw some pizza money on Vancouver plus 150 against the Kings. I sort of feel like I've got to do the same thing here and throw a little pizza money on the LA Kings plus 115 and maybe the 3-2 exact score. So we'll see. Hopefully one of those will cash. Speaking of cashing, are you cashing or playing a number like minus 280 tonight, Andrew? The Colorado Avalanche minus 280 against Minnesota, plus 230. And yes, Minnesota is on a second of a back-to-back. They come off a loss in Utah. It's a 1-hour flight from Utah to Colorado. So I'm not really worried about the travel part of it. Fleury started in goal, so it's going to be Gustafsson in goal tonight. And I think, if I saw correctly, it should be Blackwood, Andrew, for Colorado. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I cashed a ticket 2 nights ago, the team total with Colorado, and it was a lot sweatier than I thought it was going to be. They were the right side all night. Then we needed some late goals in that one. I think that this one here from Minnesota is going to be interesting because we're going to see a game that is one of the few examples you might catch me, Carm, taking an under and a second half of a back-to-back. You don't often hear me say that. Most people look to bet over second half of back-to-back. It's the same old adage: fatigued legs, sloppiness, travel, yada, 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 all the stuff we talk about. And it works 90% of the time, when you're on the right team in the right situational spots. But when a team gets their asses kicked, they just get lit up like Minnesota did in Utah Thursday night. The number one thing that Minnesota does very, very, very well is they play defense in games after getting their asses kicked. Give me the under 6 here in this one, Carm. We're seeing minus 260. Some books are showing 300 now on this Colorado team. And, I think Colorado, the big thing for them to make themselves an elite team, Martin Necas has been fantastic. Arturi Lekkonen's been good. Nathan McKinnon's doing what he does. They need to be a defensive, responsible team. So I know this might sound kind of counterintuitive from what we usually say in these situations, but Minnesota, similar to Carolina, similar to New York Islanders, similar to the LA Kings, those type of teams that identify as defensive teams, they know how to bounce back defensively. I'm not saying Minnesota can win. I don't have it in me to say they're going to win the game, Carm, but I like the under. Are you with me? Am I being a little contrarian today here on a Friday? What do you think?
As far as Colorado goes, Colorado has as I'm seeing here, the 5th most profitable record to the over at home, 17, 11, and 1, plus 4.9 units. So it's not huge. Columbus owns the highest one, followed by the Sabres. You look at Minnesota on the road, and you have to look at it. Minnesota's coming off an embarrassing loss yesterday to Utah, allowed 6 goals. They're getting their number 1 goalie in net tonight, and I'm scouring for the Minnesota numbers, Andrew, and they are 15, 15, and 2 on the road, minus 1 3/4 units. So there's not much there for them. It's basically the juice that's eaten up any wager on the if you're taking the over with them. If you like Colorado, you're going to have to like the over in this game. I'm not saying I don't like them. I'm never going to lay 280, and even the regulation line's probably in the 170, 180 range. I wouldn't want to take the puck line because I think Minnesota keeps this one close. It is a tough one. It is an absolute tough one, Andrew. I'm going to go under the total in this one and take Minnesota. Not Minnesota to win, under the total. I'm going to correlate it with the fact that they played a bad game last night. They get into Colorado early. They'll have their optional skate, and they've got to be better against this Colorado, especially against this Colorado team that have tools. When you talk about Necas, like that trade right now, if you look at it, I think Rantanen has 3 points for Carolina since that trade. A lot more for Necas. So we'll see. Come playoff time, what happens with both of those players. But I'm going to take the under here. Look for Minnie to keep it close. Keep it low scoring. Gustafsson to play extremely well in goal. And I'm good with 3-1 final. What do you think? Colorado,
That
3-1
works for
final.
me.
I'm just not laying. I can't lay 280. It's ridiculous. I won't even add it to something in a parlay and such. So I'm never going to lay 280. We have no other game that we could possibly talk about. So that's why I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to. That's why we have to discuss this one. Plus 230 seems so enticing, but I just don't see Mini going in there and winning. But I do think they keep it close. So give me the under.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games where we just see kind of a dry game, kind of a drawn out victory for the Avalanche. Worth pointing out though, Karin, because I have been kind of obsessed talking about the playoff odds lately. I'll give you a minute to catch your breath before the 6 and 60. Just taking a look at some of the futures here for the Avalanche and the Wild, kind of where they are set up as far as their playoff positioning and as far as their spot. As far as the team futures are concerned, looking at where these teams currently stand, the Avalanche are behind the Wild as far as the wild card spot is concerned. And we talk about Martin Necas and what he's done for the team. And yeah, sure, they might miss the big body that Rantanen brings, but when you've got speed and you've got the skill that a player like Necas brings, you don't really need to worry about having the size that Rantanen has. So looking at things right now, Colorado holds that number 1 spot in the wild card, but the number 3 spot for the Central Division with the Minnesota Wild. So 72 points for the Minnesota Wild, 70 points for the Avalanche. So think about this, because I hear people talk about this all the time with college football, college basketball, at certain sports like that. So you got a team that's ahead in the standings by 2 points with 72 points. The team they're playing below them in the standings was 70 points. And the team ahead is a massive underdog. The team below in the standings, sub minus 300, minus 285. That doesn't make much sense. Well, it tells you all you need to know, because next week on Puck Time, Colorado will be the third place team in that division. And I think by the time the season's over, they could very well be the second place team in that division. So very competitive division. The Western Conference, we pretty much know who's going to make the playoffs in the West. It's just about where the pieces of the puzzle end up landing, I think, is the biggest thing right now in the Western Conference. Carm, you have already taken a look at some games for Saturday. You're getting ahead of things for us here. What do you have for us for the 6 and 60 this week?
I want to mention, because we were talking about teams to make the playoffs, and you had mentioned like the Bruins and the Rangers. The one bet I made, one of the bets I made before the season started, and I released it to clients as well too, Andrew, was the Boston Bruins team total under for their points, 99.5. And the number, I talked to a few people, and they thought, wow, 99.5 seems short. And I didn't think so. I thought it was going to be a bad season for the Bruins. Well, right now, the Bruins have 22 games left. They have 62 points. They need 38 points in the remaining 22 games, Andrew. I will shave my eyebrows off on the show live if the Bruins go over 99.5 points on the season. Don't see it happening. They would have to go something like 20-2 to close out the season. Unbelievable. It's a shame. This is one of those ones where the book should offer an early cash out for the full amount so I could cash that one in. But anyways, with that said, let's forget about the ones that we've cashed and talk about the ones that we want to cash with the 6 and 60. So, producer Dan, I am ready when you are. All right, Calgary and Florida. Flames dropped the first half of the Florida double. I don't see them getting any points here against this Florida team that have won 6 of their last 7 at home. Give me Florida in regulation. Boston and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 6-3-1 their last 10 to the over at home. Boston 4-1 to the over the last 5 away, and losing games on the road. Give me the over in this one. Detroit and Columbus. I figured these two teams would split their home and home. Didn't think Columbus would win in Detroit, so I'm taking Detroit. We're going to get a better price in Columbus against for Detroit. So Detroit money line. Edmonton and Carolina. Canes money line in this one. Rough start for the Oilers. 4 losses after the break, allowing 21 goals, 5 straight losses. It's likely going to get worse on Saturday night. Give me Carolina money line. New Jersey, Utah. I'm riding Utah. 4 straight home wins. They've only allowed 5 goals in those 4 games. Let's ride that streak. And finally, Chicago and Anaheim, the Ducks puck line. Yes, Ducks puck line. Second most profitable puck line team on the season. Hawks, 4th worst. 42 puck line losses for the Hawks this year. That's your 6 and 60.
Great stuff. Great stuff, Carm. I got 2 points to make. 2 points to make on that.
Yes.
I think the Columbus and Detroit game, it's really interesting because it goes to show that home ice advantage for some teams is out the window now. I mean, the road team could very well be the successor in that matchup, like you said. I mean, Detroit losing at home and then could go on the road. As you mentioned in the segment, they're going to get a better price on the road than they would have gotten at home. And the second point I wanted to make was about the Oilers. The fact that their schedule is not getting any easier, man. It's actually getting harder. They come after the break. They've lost 3 straight games. And, oh, yeah, here are the Carolina Hurricanes for you. So that game, I'll be watching that one from a fan and viewership perspective. I don't blame you for going against them. But it's tough when you don't have like a San Jose Sharks, on the schedule up anytime soon. It's all tough games for the Oilers right now.
The first game out of the break, Andrew, they lose to the Flyers. They were playing well, and then the Flyers just jumped on them and didn't stop. And you think, okay, well, this is a good Edmonton team. They lost the last one before the break to Colorado, the first one after the break. You figure, okay, well, a couple of players we're at the Four Nations. McDavid and the team will be better. And then they go into Washington, and Washington absolutely blitzes them. And then you figure, okay, they're going to be better in their next game. And they play Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay keeps them to a goal, shuts them right down. And then they go into Florida, and Florida does the same thing. So, the Alberta team's not faring well this week in Florida. Edmonton loses both. Calgary loses yesterday and play Florida tomorrow. It's not looking good for the Oilers right now. And I always say sometimes it's got to get worse before it gets better. I said that about the Rangers, and it did get worse. And then they strung a bunch of wins together. This is one of those ones for the Oilers. I think it's got the goaltending has to be an issue, Andrew. Skinner and Picard, 21 goals allowed in 4 losses. When the Oilers were playing extremely well last season, and then even at points earlier this season, they were playing good defense under Coach Knobloch. And when they put together that 16-game win streak, they were playing extremely well defensively. Just not seeing it right now, man. They're allowing goals. I don't know what to say. There's 20 games left. Is this a team that just figures, let's make the playoffs and we'll turn it on in the playoffs, Andrew? Because when you get to the cup, that's almost the mentality is we've done it before. We got to the cup. Let's just get into the playoffs. We don't need the number 1 seed. We can win on the road. But they're not doing it right now. They're 0-4 on the road. But any thoughts?
I was listening to an interview with the guy that does the play-by-play on the road for the Oilers. I feel bad. I can't remember his name, but he said the exact same thing you're talking about, Carm. He said that he's never witnessed McDavid and the Oilers struggle emotionally the way that they are. And it's why they always say teams that have lost in the Super Bowl, not won, lost, kind of struggle that next season because it just takes a toll on you mentally. You were so close to your goal, and all those clips from the Amazon docuseries that came out, finally seeing some emotion out of McDavid behind the scenes and how devastated he was. And of course, now he goes and wins the Four Nations tournament, which is obviously exciting for your country, but really doesn't mean anything to do with the NHL. Like you said, get in. That's all they want, is to get in. We know how good this team is. Draisaitl is on pace for the best year of his life. He might win the Art Ross, the Hart Trophy. He could win the Selke Trophy. But they need to get in. And that's kind of how I feel. You know, I keep on touting this Tampa Bay Lightning team on PuckTime every day. That's how I feel about Tampa. John Cooper just wants to get in. And we might see an all-Florida matchup, Panthers versus Lightning. If the Leafs win the number 1 seed, we might see an all-Florida matchup in the playoffs. So, yeah, Carm, I think some teams, it's important for them to finish higher up. Some teams, it's kind of just get in. I think one team that it's important to is probably Minnesota, because Minnesota is kind of like the team that gets the first round every year, then gets bounced. So I think for them, finishing in third versus finishing in that wild card spot would be a lot better for them. But we'll see. Some teams just want to get into the postseason. But you already kind of mentioned your best bet earlier on in the show, but remind us what you have for it.
Yeah. So, and Andrew, the great thing about this NHL season, one last note before we close off with a couple of best bets and our cards at WagerTalk, is that in the Eastern Conference, down the stretch, every single game is going to mean something, which is great. And it's not just points, because there's likely to be that 7th, 8th, 9th, even 10th team. There's a very good chance these teams are going to be tied on points. It is so close, and it's going to come down to regulation wins. And I always say it is so important to win your games in 60 minutes. Regulation wins are the first tiebreaker come playoff time. We'll look at the Western Conference. It's not going to be a similar type of race, but we're going to have meaningful games, is what I'm trying to say, the last 2-3 weeks of the NHL season. And that's what you love, because if you're betting the games and you're putting homework into it, the last thing you need is a team that calls up a bunch of guys from the AHL team, and then you're stuck on a team that is just playing out the season and getting ready to for golf season down in Florida. So the NHL season this year is going to be, to close out, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I think we're lined up to have a fantastic playoff season as well too. So we'll see how that goes. My free play on the show, Andrew, it's back to the LA Kings. I like the way this team is playing. When a team is playing well defensively, they win at home, they win on the road. And that's what the Kings are doing. They are playing well defensively. If they can go in and first 20 minutes to get through this first opening 20 minutes against the Dallas Stars and even have a lead, because this is the Stars' first game back after opening up with 3 on the road, that we could very well see an upset here by the LA Kings. This is close to being a client play for me. I'll decide within the next hour or so once the goalies are confirmed. But the LA Kings plus 115, I have a play that goes this afternoon in soccer. It is a total. It's a 5% play. You can get that over at WagerTalk. And that deal, 30 days of NHL and 30 days of soccer combined for 189. That's regular 368 for each individual package. And you get all 5% plays, every single play that I release. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. And I'll send it over to Andrew to close it out.
Carm, let's start our weekend off with a bang. I am following along with your 5% play. I invite everybody watching live right now to go to Carmine's page and join him on his 5% soccer play. Carm has been money with these plays, especially on totals. So don't miss out on this afternoon winner from Carm in the soccer betting markets. Also that great package, NHL and soccer combo together at Carm's home profile page. All right, for me, one coupon code for today. I'm going to mention it on PuckTime. I'll mention it again on WagerTalk today. Plus 35 units since September on best bets. That's 4% and 5% plays combined. I did some research, guys, looking at my plays, looking at kind of my stats and my history. The fact is, I got to stop releasing 1% and 2% plays because they're 1% and 2% plays for a reason. They're the plays I liked the least for a reason. The 4% plays and 5% plays have been dynamite. Number one at the website with 5% plays. Number one with 4% and 5% plays combined in the NHL. And hopefully we'll keep that going. Promo code HATTRICK5. HATTRICK5 gets you the full NHL season, the rest of my NHL season, plus playoffs, futures, sides, totals, team totals, props, everything for $2.99. We're talking right now, February 28th. I'll be talking to you guys in April during the playoffs with the exact same picks, sides, totals, props, $2.99. Hat Trick 5 is the best deal I'll have in the next couple months. You guys can use that coupon code at my page today, wt.buzz/am, Hat Trick 5. 5% plays are $35, guys. Handful of 5% winners. You pay off this deal. $2.99 the rest of the season. Best bet for the show, Rangers, money line, even money, MSG, Madison Square Garden. Good bet on spot for this Rangers team. I believe this game means a hell of a lot more to the Rangers than it does to the Maple Leafs, who are dealing with a ton of injuries, off a few wins, and I feel like this is a little bit of a letdown spot for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sign me up for the New York Rangers to get the job done on a Friday night. Let's cash some tickets, guys. And let's get those likes up on this show. Get the likes going. If you're watching, comment. Right now, we're seeing the engagement slow down on the PuckTime side of things, all right? We need those likes up. We need the comments. Let us know what you guys are betting tonight, and we hope you enjoyed the show. I always love doing the two-man shows to end the week. Carmine and myself going back and forth, talking about these games, and hopefully finding you guys some winners. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time right here on PuckTime.